What if you could lead more effectively and go home on time? Welcome to the Lightbulb. I'm Zoe Thompson, leadership and performance coach, and each week I bring you 3 practical insights from my work helping impact-driven leaders transform from reactive to intentional leadership so they can finish work on time and take guilt-free time off, creating success that feels as good as it looks. Let's jump in.
Hello and welcome back. Episode 17. And we've had a whole day of sunshine since the last episode was recorded, which has made me very happy. I do still have a bit of a sniffle and a tickly cough, which is right there on cue. So I'm going to try and manage that as we talk through today's episode. I have a glass of water on standby. I've already had 2 sips, even just doing the introduction. Hopefully the voice holds out. It's a little bit Mariella Frostrup, for those of you who are old enough to remember. But here we are, showing up just to share, showing up to share my light bulbs anyway. I actually feel fine. It's just really annoying. But there we go. We're on the tail end of it. So hopefully in the next couple of days, it will be long gone. It's been a busy week, lots of clients and workshops this week, which has been great. It's quite nice to have those faster paced weeks with lots of client time, as well as it's quite nice to have the slower paced weeks to have time to work on the business as well. So this week had more client work in it, which has been great. And actually was made it nice and easy to come up with 3 light bulbs this week. So I don't know how long my voice is going to hold out. I'm going to jump straight into it and let's get going with my 3 light bulbs from this week that's going to help you with your leadership. Okay, first one, progress. This time I want to talk through why burnout creeps back in even when things are working. And that's come up in a couple of different ways this week. And actually it's probably something that you are aware of. I think once you've been through burnout once, it's much easier to spot the signs. And sometimes for people that makes it more frustrating because they're making changes, they're making some progress, and yet they can still feel themselves teetering on that edge of burnout. And I've spoken to a couple of people this week. Things are working. You know, they're planning really well. They're prioritizing much more than they've ever done before. They're putting aside time to spend on their priority tasks. They're making real and genuine progress, but they recognize that there are still parts of their working day that are slipping back into old ways of doing things. And perhaps the boundaries aren't holding quite as strong as they might have done before. And those old beliefs are still shaping their behavior. And that's why in coaching sessions, we'll always come back to what is the belief that drives the behavior, because we need to work on the surface level change and change the habits. We also need to change the belief that drives that behavior as well. And I think what's really important is even when you recognize that there are some old things creeping back in, we need to recognize that we are not back to square one, that real progress is still being made. And we're not in burnout. They're burnout warning signs. And you've seen them. You've spotted them. So that's already progress from where you would have been before. That's the benefit of having coaching sessions. It's also the reason why I have monthly check-ins with the community and I have monthly check-ins with people that I've worked with on the program, because we need to spot these signs and we want to be able to take action sooner rather than later. What we talked about this week, interestingly, was that the client that I was talking to was actually finding that they have different cycles in their workplace. So they do have slightly busier periods, but actually they're going through a growth period with the business at the moment, which means there's lots of work going on that's really exciting. And they want to get involved in that. And so that means that they're making decisions to stay on late and get involved in projects that are going on that they do still want to be involved with. And they don't want to say no to that. This is a very conscious choice. And this isn't their inefficiency that is making them stay late. This is additional work that's coming in that they're having the opportunity to be involved with that is making them stay late. So we talked about how this is choice. We were very clear that this is a conscious decision and that this is what they want to do. However, also recognizing that we cannot stay in the fast lane for long periods of time. And actually what they were describing is that go hard, go fast, and then burn out, and then need a week to recover. And actually, when we talked about it and when I asked the question, if you were to just slow down a little bit, would you drop off? Would you reach that burnout phase? Would you need that week of recovery? Or would you not have all of that? And although the momentum would be slightly slower, it would actually be more sustainable. So the ups and the downs wouldn't be quite so big, because that momentum would have that sustainable pace. You've probably heard me talk about the 3-lane analogy before. The fast lane is going to feel very urgent. It's going to feel very reactive. It will feel that you're at full capacity. So we don't want to be there all the time. Now, for a lot of us, regardless of the industry that we are in, we will have these busy periods, but they should be the exception rather than the norm. And if we do recognize that there is a busy period happening, we need to plan to make sure that we don't stay in this fast lane, that we look and we plan ahead to work out how we can be in this middle lane, or certainly the first lane, so that it is a manageable, steady and intentional pace. It's a momentum that we can keep going. Work still gets done. We're still meeting the deadlines. We're still making progress with projects, but it is manageable. It's sustainable. It's not going to lead to burnout, and we're not going to lose a week because we need to recover. So this is exactly what the performance flow framework addresses. Accelerate is your fast lane when it's genuinely needed. Maintain is your middle lane, which is your default operating pace. But the sustain is your first lane. It's the lane that you plan for. And if we can plan to get to where we want to get to in that slow lane, then being able to be in the middle lane or drop into the fast lane when we need to is that added bonus. But we want to make sure that it is sustainable and that it is intentional rather than that fast lane urgent reaction. Sometimes we need to accelerate. Sometimes we need to do that little bit more to be able to move things forward. We want to be conscious around that. We want to be intentional around that. We want to have purpose around that. And we most definitely don't want to go hard and fast so that we reach that burnout and then need a week of recovery. Or if we're using the 3-lane analogy, we need to drop off in the service station for a couple of hours, or we break down, and we end up ill. So think about where you're at the moment. Think about what this next couple of weeks looks like for you and whether or not you are being intentional about the lane that you are in and whether it is sustainable for the lane that you are in. Okay, Lightbulb, talking about North Star, long-term vision. Now, I like the analogy of the North Star. I like the idea of being very clear around your vision and where you're heading towards and the direction that you want to go in. I think it's a good thing to have. And certainly I will often talk through with clients, okay, what is the end goal? Or certainly if it's not the end goal, what's the next milestone? Where is it they're heading towards? What's the direction they're going in? What is it that they want to be able to do to get there? Now, this client used the phrase the North Star. And I think that's a great way to describe it. You do need direction. Your North Star should be a guiding light. It's not a destination that you have to hit exactly, or a route and a specific route that you need to take. And what we want to do is have a vision and have a direction, but not one that is so rigid that it creates paralysis rather than direction, or potentially means that we lose out on opportunities because we have this set plan. So it is important to have your North Star. And for me, your North Star is going to be your purpose. It's going to be your needs. It's going to be your values. It's going to be your way of being. What's important to you. It's kind of like a filter. You'll check and test to make sure that you're moving in the direction that you want to move in, but also that you're moving in a way that you want to move. So the North Star is not the map, it's not the territory, it's the guiding light that you are moving towards. And that means that you do have the opportunity to go to the left, go to the right, go off in a different direction, because you're still following that guiding light. And that North Star is what it's all about. We don't want to be too rigid with the plan. We want to be flexible with the guide. And that means then that we can look at the opportunities that come towards us, and we can decide whether or not it aligns with how we want to show up, whether it aligns with the direction that we're heading in. And, whether it's a scenic route that means that we add more to the toolbox and we experience more of life and potentially careers as well, or whether it just sets us off and in the opposite direction to where that North Star is. So we do need a vision, whether you call it a North Star or you call it your 5-year plan or you call it your vision, whatever terminology you use, you want to make sure that you do have some flexibility in there. Otherwise, there is a risk that the North Star holds you back because it's too prescriptive and potentially it's keeping you stuck in the next step rather than taking a step back and looking at that bigger picture of what it is that you want and how you want to achieve it. Now, some people don't have a long-term vision. Some people work fairly short-term. The question is still the same. Just think about how this is impacting you, looking at your vision, looking at your goals, looking at whether or not you're using it in a very prescriptive way, in a very specific way, or whether you're giving yourself the opportunity to flex and evolve, to seize the opportunities that come up, and that you're able to keep that momentum going in a way that works for you. If you do get opportunities that come up for you, then the questions to think about: does it move you broadly in the right direction? Does it align with what's important in terms of your values, your needs, that sense of purpose? And if it's a yes to both, then I would say it's certainly worth exploring. It doesn't need perfect alignment. You can still move in that broad direction and have your non-negotiables to consider along the way. And my third light bulb, and the voice is still holding. Perhaps I shouldn't say that. That's like saying the dangerous Q word. But my third light bulb, I want to talk about leadership being a muscle memory and why practice matters, because practice makes permanent rather than perfect. Now, this came up in a conversation with somebody who is in a senior role, not currently in a leadership role. Now, we had a conversation to explore the knowledge, skills, and action gap between where they are now and that next step into leadership and management. Now, technically, this person is brilliant at their role. They have been in the industry for some time. They are very well liked, very well respected, very credible in terms of the technical side of the work. And actually, they've picked up a lot of additional responsibility in addition to the technical side of the role. And there's opportunities for them to continue to develop and evolve into a more senior role. So we wanted to talk about what uncertainties they might have, what concerns they might have. We talked about their knowledge gaps, their skills gaps, and their action gaps. We talked about what it is that they know they can do and step straight into, and also what they either didn't feel comfortable with or didn't feel confident with. They know how to do it. They just haven't necessarily had that experience. So we talked around this for a little while. Interesting conversation. And I think a lot of us will resonate with that when we're kind of hovering on taking that next step. We know that we've got the technical skills, the behavior skills for where we are currently at. We will recognize that for us to take that next step, there are going to be knowledge gaps, skills gaps, and action gaps. And actually, a lot of what we can do right now, we can probably do with our eyes closed. And the reason we can do it with our eyes closed and not have to think about it is because the brain works like a muscle and it has that muscle memory. It's a neurological pathway. The more we practice it, the more we repeat it, the more familiar we get with it, and the more confident we become, and the easier it gets. When we're looking into this next opportunity and we recognize that we've got skills and knowledge and confidence gaps, then that will sometimes result in us holding ourselves back. But when we call it out, we can identify it and we can then look at how we can fill those gaps. How do we bridge those gaps between where we are now and where we want to get to? Now, a lot of people who are very good at what they do from the technical element will look at people in leadership roles and think that, well, they're born to do that. That must be really easy to them. It looks very natural to them. I don't have the personality to do that. I don't have the confidence to do that. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to be able to deal with something like that. But we all started somewhere without the skills, without the knowledge, without the experience. And so it's the same question again. When we're ready to move into this next stage, there will be gaps. But in the same way that we started where we're currently at, with gaps in skills, gaps in knowledge, lack of experience. And then we've learnt that. We've learnt it. We've put it into practice. We've embedded it into the day-to-day. It's repetition. So in the same way that this individual has incredible technical expertise, we are practicing and flexing and working that muscle memory of our leadership in the same way. The repetition, the practice, getting it wrong, trying it again, getting it right, and repeating it and building it in until it becomes more automatic, until we get to that point where we don't need to think about it, and we will need to flex and adapt for different people and different situations. Absolutely. But that neurological pathway is developed through practice. It's not through having the right personality. We're not born with leadership skills. We learn all of the different behavior skills that make a great leader. And we learn those skills, we learn those behaviors, and we practice them. And then we get confident with them, and then we learn how to flex and adapt. And actually, even when we're stepping from one situation into the next, even when we're evolving as leaders, we're taking all of our existing skills with us. We don't leave the existing toolbox behind. We take it with us. And some of the tools we will continue to use on a regular basis. Some of the tools we won't use for a little while. We'll learn how to use new tools and how to apply them into the new role that we're stepping into. This light bulb, and the reason why I'm sharing this light bulb is because I want you to think about where you might be resisting or holding yourself back because you recognize you've got knowledge, skills, or action gaps. And I want you to think about how you can bridge those gaps, because it might be that you can bridge them in the existing role that you are in. It might be that you need to step into a new role to bridge those gaps, to learn those skills, to fill the gaps in your knowledge. And so the more you recognize what those gaps are, the more you can identify what you would need to do to bridge those gaps, and you can start taking action. So there may not be a call for it yet. This may be something that you're thinking about for the future. But if you're looking at going into that next level in the next year or 2 years, look to see where the gaps are and look to see how you can bridge the gaps where you are and where you might need to just wait until you get into that role to be able to do it and to be able to practice it. But you might find that actually, if you can't practice it, you could still learn about it. You can still bridge the knowledge gap, even if you can't bridge the skill and the action gap. So don't hold yourself back. Ask yourself that question. What's the difference between where I am now, where it is that I want to get to? What are the knowledge gaps, skills gap, action gaps? And where can I start to bridge those gaps now? What doesn't feel natural yet? What doesn't feel comfortable, or what don't I feel as confident with that I would need to in this new role? And this is where we can bring that future identity into the present. We can start to become that leader where we are, so that when that opportunity comes up, we're already mentally there. Not physically in that role yet, but we are mentally in that role. Remember, courage comes before confidence, and practice is what makes permanent. Okay, those are my 3 light bulbs for this week. The voice did hold out just about. Hopefully, hopefully by the time we are back for the next episode, I will be back in top shape again, without the sniffles, without the croaky voice. I'm back on par, but I've got a great week ahead. Again, lots of client sessions, workshops, So yeah, looking forward to delivering this week. I'm also volunteering on Monday with Community of Purpose, so with the young people of Bristol. Lots of things to share this week. If you've got any questions, you know where I am. Feel free to ask. If not, have a great week and I will see you for the next episode.
And those are your 3 takeaways for this week. Before you go, ask yourself, what's my light bulb moment from this? And now that I know what I know, what will I do differently? Choose one action, however small, and commit to it. That's how overwhelmed and reactive becomes aligned and intentional. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next week on the next episode of The Lightbulb.